So yesterday I asked for some hot takes. It's not something that I think I'll do a ton of, but I just wanted to at the time because I'll just give you a quick little story time. It'll be brief and then we'll get into the hot takes and my opinions on those things. But basically, Huntsman spiders, if you don't know them, they're like this big plus some extra fingers on top of that. They're huge. They're huge things and, well, they're not deadly, but at the same time, my bed's right there. It's within an extra arm's length of me, and I've had one crawl on my face before, so I kind of don't like them being in the room with me because you just don't know what's going to happen. They're just crawling everywhere. I don't like it. I'll be honest, I don't like the idea of one of them being in my room, so I was planning on staying up and keeping this at the ready for when it popped out, which is pretty much empty now, so I'm going to need to replenish because one of them pops up pretty much every month just to remind me where I live. So I was trying to do that, and well, I got it. Unfortunately, I didn't get the recording because my audio got damaged. But anyways, stomped it out. We don't condone violence against animals or insects. But sorry, when you got to do it, you got to do it. And unfortunately, I had to do it. That's just a short story time. A little bit of a derailment. But basically, that's why I wanted hot takes. At the time, I was going to read over that with a cup of tea, which I've still got right now. And I was just going to go through my opinions on that. However, why not do it anyways? Also, drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, that would be much appreciated, but let's not waste any time. First off, we've got Jacob who says, John Collins doesn't deserve a supermax. An interesting one. Well, first off, John Collins can't get a supermax, but in terms of just a max contract for what he is capable of getting, in terms of his range, if you had asked me after the second round against Philadelphia where he had huge momentum swing dunks, he played good defense, good help defense, had a decent series against the Knicks, not a great series, but had some really nice momentum swing games against Philadelphia in a huge series, obviously, I would have said probably $25 million because his offense looked good. He was shooting the three ball well. Obviously, him and Trae Young have a great partnership. It looked all gravy, and then all of a sudden you fast forward to the Bucks series, and a few of his weaknesses got exposed. When he was asked to post up, whether it was Pat Connaughton, Drew Holiday, try to create his own shot when Trae Young went out of the lineup, all of a sudden, he didn't look like a great offensive player that you'd want to be seeing if you're paying him $25 million a year. So I think I took my evaluation of him just down a notch. In the right system, I still think he's going to be incredibly impactful. He improved defensively. He's a good post defender. I think he can help out as a good help defender when guys are going up against fives. But at the same time, I didn't see enough shot creation to warrant getting $25 million upwards. I would think that would be a little bit of an overpay, but the reality is teams are going to overpay to try and get a player of his quality. When it comes to the Hawks, it's a tough situation. I've talked about this in more depth in a different video about the Hawks offseason. I won't have time to go through it all right now, but basically, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to try and keep him when you have DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish. I would agree John Collins is not worth a max. I would say somewhere in that 22 million range until he can prove that he can create his own shot consistently. Then looking at the next one, my guy Alberto said, Cade Cunningham will be the first rookie to earn an all-star nod since Blake Griffin. Was Blake the last person to do it? Did Ben Simmons not do it? I know it was technically his second year, Ben Simmons, but still, I think he did it. Did he not? I could be wrong. But anyways, Cade. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. I'm not someone who does the draft a ton, but when you look at his numbers, when you look at what everyone says, this is someone that's going to be ready to come into the league. He's big, he's physical. His numbers were 26 and 3.5 at Oklahoma State. He was shooting well from the three. He can play off the ball. He can defend multiple positions. He's got all the makings of someone that's going to come in and be ready. And when I look at him as an all-star or being a guy that's really transformative, I got to look at the situation that he's going to be put in. And when he goes to Detroit, which is what's going to happen when he goes to Detroit, I see a situation that is damn near perfect for him, considering he's a number one overall pick. Obviously, number one overall picks don't tend to go to great teams, but I see a team in Detroit. I've talked about this before as well, so I won't go into too much depth, but I see a team that lost a lot of close games. They need a closer. Cade Cunningham has proven to be someone who can close out games. They've got 3-and-D wings, Jeremy Grant, Sadiq Bey. Those guys will space the floor. They'll create space for him, and they'll be able to shoot. They even have Isaiah Stewart, who might be able to shoot from three more consistently next season. Killian Hayes, I think he'll be a fine shooter. I'm going to talk about Killian Hayes and some other guys in a video tomorrow probably, so stay tuned for that. But basically, I think Killian Hayes will be able to shoot 35-ish%, particularly on catch and shoot three. So I think you've got 4 guys around him that are likely all going to be able to shoot. You've got defensive guys around him. You've got a team that is just ready to build. I don't know how good they are. Someone else said the Pistons could be a 6th to 7th seed. That might be a stretch just based off how strong the East is, but I do think they will be competitive. I do think if Cade takes this team from where they were this year, which I don't think reflected them entirely, to a different level, a play-in level team or something like that, that could really catapult him in the All-Star ranks. In terms of actually getting an All-Star honor, it's going to be tough because you've got Kyrie Irving, James Harden, who else am I missing? A lot of guys, Trae Young. There's a lot of guys in the Eastern Conference. There's just a lot of guards that are so good right now that it's hard to see him getting an All-Star honor. But in terms of being someone who can come in straight away, make an impact, giving you 26 and 5 in the right system, I see Detroit as a really nice place for him. And then my guy Dennis said, basically, Jokic and Luka are currently top 5/6 players in the NBA right now, but Americans won't acknowledge that and will without hesitation put Kawhi or Harden in front of them. And then in brackets, he says there's a debate to be had. I do agree full-heartedly with one of these sentiments. There is a debate to be had. I actually made a TikTok on this. Oh, yeah, TikTok. But I did make a TikTok on this. Check it out if you want. But I think there's a debate to be had. I've seen a lot of talks of Giannis, KD, Steph, LeBron, and Kawhi as just the undisputed top 5. Which is cool. It's hard to argue with that. Those guys are so good, but at the same time, I don't think it's undisputed because Jokic won the MVP. He averaged 30, 10, and 5 in the playoffs. He led his team to the Western Conference Finals last year, and then he had an injured Jamal Murray this year, so couldn't do the same, but he proved he's still that guy. And then Luka Doncic, where do we start? 36, 10, and 8 on 49% from the field, 41% from 3 against a far, far more talented Clippers team with Tim Hardaway Jr. as his second option, not to mention he led Slovenia to the Olympics for the first time, which should count for something. I know people don't want to count it for anything because it's not the NBA. That should count for something. Those guys at least have to be in the debate. When it comes to guys that he mentioned, Kawhi and Harden, if I'm being completely honest, I have Kawhi ahead of both of those guys. I don't do rankings too much, but if I were to just say honestly, I would have Kawhi ahead of both of those guys because how he performed in that Dallas series was, wow, that was insane. He was so good. And then when he needed to guard Luka Doncic on several possessions, Luka was passing the ball away. He was. Let's be honest, Kawhi Leonard was still the clamp god defensively, and then offensively like 70% from the field in that Dallas series, scoring like 40 points a game. He is still a top 5 player in my opinion. When it comes to James Harden, I agree. I don't see James Harden having done anything as good as those guys in the playoffs in how long? Has he ever played as well as Luka did in the first rounds or as well as Jokic did last year or this year? Curious, genuine curious question. Am I missing something? I don't know if he has. So I would take them both over James Harden. Kawhi, different story. I'll still give him the edge, but there's a conversation to be had that those guys are both in the top 5 range anyway. So I would say that. I agree with that. And then looking at what my guy Brendan said, the Warriors will make the finals next year. When you look at the Warriors, people say they missed the play and all of these things. So everyone was using that against Steph and Curry. But basically, look at their record when Steph was in the lineup. He missed 9 games. They went 2-7 when he was out. They had a 37-26 record when he played. So straight off the bat, that's improvement if he can stay healthy the entire season. You also factor in that the first 3 or 4 games of the season, they were woeful. People were saying they were terrible. They were still going to be a bottom seed. Don't overreact. Don't overreact. But people were saying all of those things, and well, they turned it around. They became a top defense. Draymond Green got back to his best. Steph Curry was blazing for a couple of months straight. He was absolutely insane. Holy, that was insane. That was something else. And just in general, they're a team that I don't think reflects not making the playoffs this year. I think without Klay Thompson, they were already a playoff team. You had a couple of lottery picks that they could package up with James Wiseman for a more established player, or they could just get some guys that'll help from the jump, like a Moses Moody, and then you bring back Klay Thompson. Yeah, Klay Thompson, that guy. Top 20 player in the NBA when healthy. Even if he's not fully back to himself, he's still going to be a top 40 player in the NBA, like at worst case scenario, and someone that helps out Steph so much. Not to mention the 3 years KD didn't play, 2017 record of 16-4, 2018 record of 9-5, 2019 record of 3-1, not to mention making the finals without Kevin Durant. They're a good team without him. So the finals is definitely a possibility. I'm not going to write off this Warriors team or Stephen Curry. Then my guy Sam says something that I'm going to have to disagree with. OKC has an overrated future. I'll say it every time I talk about OKC. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yeah, sorry. Got to mention him every single time. I'm buying all the stocks. I encourage you to do the same because he's going to be a star for a long, long time. But that is, straight off the bat, there's a future there. You've got Lou Dort, you've got Pokusevski, who flashed brilliance at times, Darius Baisley, Sam Presti, which matters. Mark Dagno looks like a good coach. A lot of things there. But at the same time, Like, we just don't know yet. Like, how can you really call it overrated when we really don't know? They've got a ton of picks, which if you just don't value draft picks, I guess I can see your point. If you don't value the unknown of these draft picks, I can understand how a lot of people saying this is the greatest future ever, like, based off just draft picks. I understand that, but at the same time, they've got some really ready-made talent already, plus a lot of draft picks and a good general manager, which matters. So I wouldn't say it's overrated. And then looking at what my guy Zeb said, he says the Atlanta Hawks will win 50-plus games next year and make the NBA Finals, which means that the finals are going to be the Hawks versus the Warriors, according to our predictions. And would I be shocked? Hawks making the finals, I'm very high on the Hawks. I made it very clear during the postseason. It will be tough because obviously, the Brooklyn Nets. That's the real thing that we need to mention. The Brooklyn Nets were not healthy. I would still have the Nets ahead of them. I think I'd still have the Bucks ahead of them. But once you get past those two teams, all of a sudden the Hawks are right in the mix with any of those other teams. But for them to win 50 games, yeah, I can easily see that. After Nate McMillan got hired, which people didn't mention at the time, and they need to start mentioning going forward because that's when the team became the team they were. 27-11 record, had an elite offense. Their defense improved a lot. Their defense is going to continue to improve because DeAndre Hunter hopefully plays more games. Cam Reddish hopefully plays more games. And Onyeka Okongwu gets more minutes, who is someone that I'm going to talk about in another video tomorrow as well with Killian Hayes. Keep an eye out for that. In terms of making the finals, that's a bold prediction that I'm probably not willing to make just yet, just based off the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks being that good. But in terms of winning 50 games, for sure, they're going to be a top 4 or 5 seed, I could say that. And they're just going to continue to get better, which is the main thing. They're still young. They're still building. Let's keep that in mind. Then looking at what my guy Charlie said, DeMar will leave the Spurs and their young core will shine, especially DeJounte Murray, who will be all-star level. Now, the young core, I think, will improve from DeMar going, not because he's a bad player. He's actually made so many improvements in so many ways in terms of being a playmaker, an efficient playmaker at that. He just does a lot of things really nicely that you like from a veteran guy, but you're going to give DeJounte Murray and other guys the chance to close out games, take more responsibility as a ball handler, and also DeRozan, as good as he is, obviously he does not space the floor, so DeJounte Murray, who's not a great perimeter scorer, he now has a little bit more chance to attack the rim, get downhill, and do all of those things. There's a few things that he can do going forward. In terms of being an all-star, similar to the Cade Cunningham thing I talked about, so many guards. You look at De'Aaron Fox, you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you look at Anthony Edwards. I'm missing guys, but those are guys that didn't make it. And then obviously there's the guys that made it. Klay Thompson is another guy to add to that mix. So many guards. I find it hard for him to be an all-star player, but at the same time, if you just mean all-star level, like DeMar was an all-star level player last year without actually making it, I can agree with that. I think DeJounte Murray can make a different step going forward. He improved this year. He's good defensively. Obviously, we know that, but his offense improved, and I think he could really take another step if DeMar DeRozan leaves, like some people might expect. And then rounding it off, the final hot take, Stanky Manky says the Bulls will be a top 5 team in the East next season and win a playoff series. One of the hottest ones actually so far, leaving the best to the end. This is an interesting one. I've talked about the Bulls, and Vucevic and Zach LaVine only played a handful of games together. When they did, they had an offensive rating above 115, which is pretty much elite. So we know their offense is going to be great with Zach LaVine and Vucevic, both elite offensive players. You've got Patrick Williams is going to determine a lot of things. Billy Donovan is a proven coach for making the playoffs and doing well. In the playoffs, he didn't actually prove much, but in terms of making the playoffs, he proved that. Zach LaVine, I think, is going to continue to get better. Vucevic is going to be more acclimated to the team, and Chicago's a big city. It's a big market. They've got a chance to bring in Alonzo Ball. Reggie Jackson? Do you want Reggie Jackson? I don't know if he fits the team great, but even still, they've got a chance to improve. That's what matters, and how much they improve depends on their free agency, but they've got a chance to improve, plus you've got a chance to see these guys actually play a full season together in which they're going to be a great offense. Their defense is going to be where the question marks are at. That's why Lonzo Ball would be someone I'm encouraged by, and Patrick Williams needs to take another step. In terms of them becoming a 5 seed, I find that hard to imagine because you've got the Celtics off the top of my head, Philadelphia 76ers, the Hawks, the Heat, the Bucks, the Nets. That's 6 teams. There's some other teams, but they will be fighting in the mix with the likes of the Knicks, Indiana, Toronto, all of those teams, Washington. Find it hard to imagine they become a 5 seed. Anyways, I am pretty optimistic what the Bulls could do next season, and that's pretty much it. That's all I've got to say. Video did drag on a little bit, apologies for that, but if you enjoyed this kind of video, drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you want to see next. As I said, I got a different video coming tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, have a good day. Bye.